Hi, my name is Aruna Karthik and this is my Lab 1 report. The purpose was to experimentally determine the amount of excess charge and estimate the number of electrons transferred on a piece of charged clear tape. Fundamentals include assuming a charged object to be a point charge, the understanding and application of Newton's second law and Coulomb's law to calculate the charge on each piece of tape involved, and using approximate dimensions of an atom to calculate the number of excess or deficient electrons per atom on a piece of negatively or positively charged tape. The overview was that we can determine the approximate deficient or excess electrons on a piece of tape by first calculating the force exerted on one tape on the other and then deriving an equation for the charge by a rearrangement of Coulomb's law with the substitution of Newton's second law. Some general physics ideas behind this include that Coulomb's law describes the relationship between 2 point charges through the electric force acting between them. The gravitational force exerted on an object near the Earth's surface is F equals mg, where m equals the mass of the object and g is the gravitational constant. Newton's second law states that when the net force acting on an object is zero, the object will not accelerate, and this also helps us sum the forces on an object from all directions. Here's the setup and initial conditions. I define the system as 4 pieces of initially uncharged clear tape, and I define the surroundings as my bedroom with standard room temperature and standard humidity and no large external electric fields to disrupt the experiment. First, 3 pieces of tape were cut to about 20 centimeters and the ends folded underneath to create handles to grip. The recorded length for each tape was about 0.213 meters. After firmly sticking one piece of tape flat on my desk, another piece was carefully stuck on top. The tape on the bottom is the base tape and on top is the U-tape. The U-tape was quickly ripped off from the base tape as shown in figure 2, resulting in either taking electrons with it or leaving electrons to the base tape. This made both the U-tape and the base tape charged oppositely from each other. To determine the charge of the U-tape and subsequently the base tape, it was hung from the desk and objects with known charges were brought in the vicinity to observe the U-tape's behavior. Finally, the charging process was repeated with the third and fourth piece of tape, creating a second U-tape. The 2 similarly charged U-tapes were brought near each other, repelling each other, as shown in figures 4 and 5, and the distance between the U-tapes was measured to assist in further calculations. The model that I used was that each piece of charged tape was used to model a point charge to make observations of interactions between point charges much easier on a macroscopic scale. Assumptions that I made were that air resistance is negligible, the only forces acting in the y direction are the gravitational and electric forces, and all pieces of tape are treated as point charges, and that each U-tape ended with the same charge after the charging process, and the charge was evenly distributed along the tape's length. Here are some observations I made. After rubbing a plastic pen against cotton to induce a negative charge, I brought it near the U-tape and they were attracted. I brought my hand near the U-tape and they were also attracted. So I concluded that the U-tape was positively charged and that it lost electrons in the charging process. As we saw earlier in figure 4, holding one U-tape near another with the other secured on both ends makes the top U-tape float. As mentioned in my surroundings, there are no external forces acting on these objects apart from the gravitational force. This makes the system of forces in the y direction only composed of the electric force that are acting on each of the U-tapes by each other and the gravitational force acting on them. I did my calculations on U-tape B, which is the top tape, and pictured to the right of figure 4 is a free body diagram. When U-tape B reaches its final position, it is not moving nor accelerating. This means that the net force on U-tape B is 0 newtons, meaning that the gravitational force is equivalent in magnitude to the electric force. We can set these equal to each other, and we can rearrange and solve for QA, QB, and take the square root of that to solve for the charge on U-tape B. Here are some calculations I did to come up with the data and measurements that I have on the left. Here's my closed-curve model. On the left in the diagram, we can see that there are two blue spheres. The top blue sphere between the 2 arrows is U-tape B, and the one on the bottom is U-tape A. The green arrow is the gravitational force acting on U-tape B, and the orange arrow is the electric force acting on U-tape B due to U-tape A. Beneath that, we can see the charge on one piece of tape, the number of deficient electrons, and the ratio of atoms to deficient electrons, and they are all the same values as I manually calculated. To the right, we see my code, and I've split it up efficiently into constants, calculations, and visualization. Some model and prediction and data discrepancies include that there's not really a real point charge, and the charges on both the U-tapes are likely not exactly the same. And the second is due to some of these source of error, which might be the mismeasurement of the length or the width of the tape, the mismeasurement of the separation distance between the tapes, both of these which could cause calculation errors, holding the tapes at different positions, and the possible electron transfer to the surface of the desk or the support system, hands, or other nearby objects. The answer to this question is that charges on U-tapes would be negative and not positive. Electric fields produced by the charged U-tapes would reverse direction. The pen would repel the tape instead of being attracted to it, but the tapes would still repel each other because they are both the same charge, even though the charges are flipped. The answer to this question is that, as we saw from putting a human hand near the tape, they were attracted by touching the tape. It is possible that the electrons travel from our hand to the electron-deficient tape, changing the charge from what it ideally should be. This would decrease the positive charge. The same goes for the pen and other negatively charged objects.